In today's video, we are going to look at the potential price of Bitcoin of 150K in the next 2 to 3 months. We're going to speak about altcoins, the financial conditions that we are at the moment, Federal Reserve, and also very cool stats about Bitcoin compared to everything else. So good show ahead. Let's go into it. Okay, let's start with the presentation I just seen today of Raoul Pal. Really good one, where he speaks about liquidity being the main factor that drives Bitcoin. As you can see, if you look at global M2, there is a 90% correlation between Bitcoin price and M2 with 12-week lead, meaning Bitcoin starts to do what money supply does after 12 weeks. Also with the Nasdaq, there is a 97% correlation. So with 90% correlation, you can see that liquidity is basically everything for risk on assets, Bitcoin, and Nasdaq. As you can see, there is a 8% currency debasement, meaning you are losing 8% of your money every single year. If you don't invest in Bitcoin, there is almost nothing else that can make you money. Or meaning, even if you make 10% a year with currency debasement, losing more or less 8 to 10%. And if you look at actually, if you live in Argentina or Turkey, whatever, you are losing 50% a year on inflation. So if you are in Europe or United States, you are losing between 5 to 10. In 5 years, you lose 50% of your purchasing power. So what else can be other than Bitcoin that gives you 50 to 100% more or less over the last 12 years? Even if you go to S&P 500, you make 15 more or less percent a year. You barely break even. So something really interesting, 8% plus global inflation. In general, you are losing 11% of your wealth, either if you keep it on the bank or even if you invest in the stock market. You are, I'll say 99% of the times you are losing money. So our generation can't afford houses, can't afford assets. So we go full risk, we buy crypto. Even if people, I'll say in general, 99% of crypto is a scam. But if you buy the really good ones, Bitcoin, Solana, Tau, Sui, you're going to make 5 to 10 times your money, even more in the next 5 years. So it's far more riskier now for my generation, for any generation, to be buying any other asset, because with inflation across the globe, so many things going on, definitely crypto is the best chance to make money and to maintain your money, to not only not losing money, but also making a lot of money if you have a 5 to 10 year time frame. So as you can see, if you look at Bitcoin, we still have a way to go. According to this chart, we could be looking at the 400K price for Bitcoin at the end of this cycle. I think based on charts, I think 200K is a really legit target for Bitcoin. I think we're gonna hit it between this year and next year. I don't think this year we hit 200K, but we could definitely see 130 to 150K. As you can see, altcoins only move at the end of the cycle. As you can see, as he speaks about the banana zone, we are currently we were in the boring zone. Now we are starting to move. Remember, altcoins are the most riskiest asset, so they only move at the end when people have a lot of money, interest rates are low, Federal Reserve is doing quantitative easing, then people have a lot of money, so they start going to alts, and altcoins do 10 to 20x in 3 to 4 months. Happened last cycle like this. So as you can see, comparing the last 3 cycles, we didn't even start it. So really good presentation. I recommend all of you to look at this. Really impressive one from Raoul Pal. So another really important thing, China and United States starting to do trade negotiations. This will be very important if there is an agreement between the United States and China, which it will happen. This is just a game. We're gonna have also the markets starting to do very well, and we're gonna see, I'll say in the next 2 to 3 months, especially with China and USA, I think we're gonna reach a deal. We're gonna have really massive moves for risk on assets like Bitcoin. Another important thing, the Federal Reserve not only is reducing the selling pressure in treasuries, which are government US debt, and they are started to buy again. So some people are even saying that we are in a stealth quantitative easing, meaning it's not official, but they are already doing quantitative easing. Even if it's not now, I'll say end of this year, Federal Reserve interest rates will be far lower, and the Federal Reserve will be buying, I think, US treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. So in general, I think the next 1.5 years, we're going to have a really strong year for risk on assets. And remember, altcoins are the last one to move. Okay, now let's look into Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin and money M2 supply with 180 days of lag. As you can see, it's been falling really well. Of course, there are moments where it decouples, but on the long term, you can see it follows really well. As you can see, there is 108 days of lag. Bitcoin has more or less a 90% correlation with money supply with 1 year with 1 year. So in 1 year, Bitcoin does more or less the same 90% of the times with money supply. As you can see, money supply had a big move, which would imply that Bitcoin could be, of course, I don't have price targets based on money supply, but looking at this, we could see Bitcoin between 130, 150K in the next 3 months. Of course, it could fail, obviously, but looking at this and liquidity, as Raul Paul has been saying, and other very smart investors, is everything. Liquidity is running high. Federal Reserve is transitioning to quantitative easing. I think the tariff drama is already being settled down. So really expect Bitcoin to keep falling M2 and have really strong 2 to 3 months. Another very important thing, many people are asking, maybe this time is different. We are not going to have alt season. If you look at the last 3 cycles we had, we only had alt season when Bitcoin dominance hit around 71 to 74%. As you can see, currently we are at 65. We are not very far. I think either Bitcoin has a correction around this level. We go maybe to 90, 88K, and Bitcoin dominance maybe reaches 70%, or Bitcoin could simply start closing above 100K, go to new all-time highs, and we could go to the 70s. Either way, at least historically, we only had alt season when we were around 70%. So I think the same thing will happen. Alt season will come. Many people will start saying, oh, this is the end, no alt season, and then we have a correction. Say even a 10% correction already will give really good moves for altcoins. And if we have something like this, even a 20% correction, insane. I don't think we're going to have such a big alt season. We could, I don't think so. But if we did even a 30 to 40%, altcoins will do 5 to 10 times, at least really good ones. So looking at this, we still have a bit more of Bitcoin dominance going higher. 70% is a target. After that, I think we're going to have a correction and altcoins are going to do very well. Another very important thing, so this is a chart of altcoins excluding top 10. This is a chart of Bitcoin on the weekly. As you can see, Bitcoin went from 10 to 40K, did 323%. In the same period, look at altcoins. They did like 87% in the same period where Bitcoin did 300. And then when Bitcoin started to go down in the last part of the move, altcoins did 700%. Actually, no, 800% in 140 days. So more or less 4 months. So in 4 months, altcoins did 10x. And I'm speaking about total market cap, because if you look individually, you did 30, 50x. I think this time will be similar. I don't think we're going to see such big gains because you have more altcoins. But definitely, I think we're going to see 5 to 10x in really good altcoins like Tau, Sui, Solana, and some others. But these are the ones I'm looking at. Now, let's look individually at altcoins and the ones I'm focusing on. Definitely Tau, looking at all the projects, is the best one. Decentralized infrastructure for AI. The incentives are insane. Instead of just wasting computational power like Bitcoin does, you actually use that computational power to create intelligence, to create and solve real-world problems. And you have already 100 subnets. You're going to have thousands of them. You can think of Tau as Google, and the subnets like applications inside of Tau. So Tau, I think it's a good analogy with Google. I think this will be a $1 trillion asset in the next 10 years. And I think in the next 5, we're going to see Tau between 100 and 300 billion, similar to Ethereum. But to be honest, this is far more useful than Ethereum, far better project. Chart wise, it's looking good. If we have any correction to 300, it's a good level to buy. Low 300s. We could also start breaking from the 505 level and going to supply zone around 500. But overall, Tau for me is my number one conviction. Second one is Sui. I think Sui will outperform Solana. Really good technology. In terms of transactions, is one of the fastest. It's very cheap. Technology is insane. So I think after Tau, I'd say Tau, Bitcoin, and Sui for me are the best ones. You could add Solana there. Just Solana has such a big market cap already, around 100 billion, that I think Sui with a 10 billion market cap will definitely outperform Solana. So these are the 3 coins I'm looking at. Really good ones. And that's it. If you want to become part of my community, join on Whop. You can also send me a message on Instagram. There are 3 different subscriptions. If you have more money, I think the exclusive would be good for you. I'm managing almost 8 figures. So if you have money, if you want to invest like a pro, send me a message on Instagram. Be aware of scammers. Thank you very much.